one of the recurring features on this show is I typically ask people the same 3 questions, and being that you're kind of just getting off the ground here in Brighton, I think you're probably the newest business we've had on this show. So I'm anxious to see how your answers are. So no pressure.
Okay.
All right.
I'm ready.
They're all softballs, I promise. So,
Okay.
So really when you kind of wind the clock back and you go to the process of opening a business, you and I talked briefly last week about just all of the extra advice that you get from people that, all have great intentions.
Yeah.
But it can be overwhelming to hear and separate the good advice from the advice that you probably shouldn't take.
Yep.
So if you were to go back and kind of consult yourself on the process of starting a business, what type of advice would you lean into knowing what you know now?
Yeah. So when I was thinking of starting this business, I wanted to make sure it was something that I would keep the passion alive on, and I wanted to make sure that it was something that I would be continually rejuvenated to work on. So there's a quote that says, let me get this right. It says, it's not work unless you'd rather be doing something else. And that's kind of what I took to heart when I started this business. I'm like, when I'm in there every day, am I going to want to be somewhere else? And I haven't felt like that since I've started, which is great. So every day as I'm in there, I'm feeling like I don't want to be at home. I don't want to be somewhere else. I want to be there and working on it. And it's so exciting to me. Yeah. So that's something that's really stuck with me, that I thought was good advice, to do something that, makes you feel like you don't want to be anywhere else. So that's something that has really helped me, and also something that I feel like I want to keep in mind as I move forward, and make sure that I'm still feeling fresh in the business and always learning. Absolutely.
Second question is what is a particular hobby that you have right now other than painting stores and stocking inventory right now? So hobby outside of those things that you do to kind of unwind.
Oh yeah. Okay. Actually I have a good one for this, because, in my marriage counseling 2 years ago, our pastor asked my husband and I, what hobbies do you have together, and what hobbies do you have individually? And to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I don't know that I have one specific outlet. And I really pushed myself at that time about 2 years ago to get into something. And that thing that I chose was carpentry. So I started building things. I started with small boxes, and then kind of those blanket ladders that you see in a lot of homes now. And then stepped up my game a little bit, bought some pretty intense power tools. And my whole Christmas list last year was all different, miter saw and that kind of things, which is unique. List, but yeah, exactly. Jimmy had a lot of it to start with. Yeah. But I worked my way up. Made a couple coffee tables, a dining table. So I've been able to give some of those things as gifts, and it's just been really fun to get into carpentry. So I'm really looking forward to building some things for the store, whether it's just shelving to display things on, or potentially even one day taking some of the things that I build and selling them at the store. So that's kind of a pipe dream of mine for down the line. But I haven't been able to do a lot of carpentry lately in the last couple months, just with starting the store. But I'm looking forward to getting back into it soon.
That's a super cool hobby.
Thank you.
And that's a big undertaking too.
Yeah.
I have to cut trim at like a 45-degree angle, and I break out in a cold sweat.
Oh my God.
So I do marketing. I don't do carpentry.
I'm a very numbers focused person. So there's something really reassuring to me about it. Just knowing that if I do all of this right, it's all going to come together perfectly. And
that's all the precision.
And half the time it doesn't happen, but it's nice to try.
That's the learning part.
For sure.
All right. Question 3. What is your favorite piece of technology?
Wow.
It can be ever as well. I think I always say currently, and I think that kind of traps people into always saying the iPhone, but it really can be ever. So if
that's a tough one. I'm sorry, this is not a very original answer, but I would probably have to say like a phone with internet that you don't have to be at the house is helpful for me, just because I'm working on the go so often, especially now with the store. Just being able to be, whether it's a laptop or a computer, being able to be on the go and not just in my workplace working has been huge. And I worked from home the last 2 years at the marketing company that I worked for. So being able to take that outside, I guess that ability in itself is really what I appreciate the most about our modern technology.
No, absolutely. And also, as you go into the retail space, you have, a POS system, and you can do a lot of it on your phone, if not all of it.
Yeah, and I got all the data plans so that if I want to go to a farmer's market or something like that and set up a booth, I'm good to go and do all my selling through a small iPhone and a small card reader, and something like that would have been completely unheard of 10, 15 years ago. So
Absolutely.